Hello there. Welcome to a Magic Online daily event being recorded for theincrediblepulp.com. We are running through this daily event with Mono Black Infect. And if you've never heard of that before, other than reading the article that I posted, probably not surprised. This is absolutely a rogue deck. Put up some results some time ago, decided to build it. And I think it definitely has its place in the metagame. It's able to take advantage of the weaknesses of certain decks, especially on the back of Phyrexian Crusader. Just try to make this a little bigger so that you guys can read it. So the deck is very discard oriented. You have cards like Raven's Crime, Wrench Mind, Inquisition, Funeral Charm to strip your opponent of their cards before they can play them against you. And then obviously this also takes advantage of Howltooth Hollow, probably the least played hideaway land that I know of. Obviously it's No More's Work Bridge. And obviously this also takes advantage of Root Changer's Pike, because what you're doing is you're playing these instants and sorceries to put your opponent's cards in their graveyard, and that's all pumps up your Pike, so you can slam it on one of your 3 Infect creatures, the only creatures in the deck. I guess I should say 12. So basic strategy is we are mono black, we're running 22 lands, which is a lot for a deck that curves out at 4, but you definitely want to be able to cast your Phyrexian Vat Mothers, and any flooding can be sort of mitigated with Raven's Crime. Changes from the original list that I talked about in the article, Sign in Blood has been changed to Night's Whisper. This is for 2 reasons. The first is that you really want to be able to play your Inkmoth Nexus on turns 1 or 2 and not be worried about the double black required for Sign in Blood. The only double black spell we have now on turn 2 is Wrench Mind. And obviously you can't count on Urborg to make your Inkmoth Nexus tap for black mana. And it's rare that, especially that we've taken Vampire Nighthawk out of the sideboard, it's rare that we will ever get our opponent to 2 or fewer life, where the fact that you cannot target your opponent with Night's Whisper becomes mostly irrelevant in this build. So it's more mana efficient. And it's in the deck obviously because you need a way to draw cards. Some decks are obviously very good at drawing cards, and if you are a discard deck, you just can't be outraced by that. So like I said, main reason to run this deck right now is this card, Phyrexian Crusader. Protection from red and white, Infect, First Strike, just all sorts of relevant text in this format, in this metagame, I think, especially now that the bannings have gone through. Bloodred Elf and Seething Song are banned in Modern. Bloodred Elf was only kind of a problem. The fact that you needed an instant speed answer to it was obviously the problem that it posed for all decks. Jund was never a huge problem for this deck. You had Disfigures for their Deathrite Shamans, Doomblades and Go for the Throats for their Tarmogoyfs. Also worthy of noting, I did change the number of Go for the Throats for Doomblades. I've gone with the 2-2 split. When I put the deck together myself, I found myself playing against Affinity a bit too often, so I had the extra Doomblade in there. Affinity has seen a little bit of a drop-off, so I might change this around. I was also playing with Dismembers for a while, but my friend asked for those back. I had cut 1 each of a Doomblade and Go for the Throat there. The advantage to having Dismember in this deck over something like Doomblade and Go for the Throat is that you can cast them for 1 mana. And sometimes you just need to be able to do that. 1 mana for Disfigure is absolutely nice, and 2 mana Conditional Kill Spell is also really nice. But the ability, especially against matchups like the Bug Infect matchup, having -5/-5 for the low cost of 1 mana was very relevant. So those might go back in. I might just get them for myself. Vat Mother is honestly probably the worst card in the deck, but a 4/5 Infect certainly hard for many decks to deal with, especially some of the aggro decks in the format. That's basically the summary of the main deck. The sideboard is reasonably different from the one that we've seen before, however. I did keep the 4 Duress. When, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but we'll call him Zusa. was running this deck through dailies, he had gone back and forth rather between 4 and Fast 4 Ratchet Bomb. I like the split. Ratchet Bomb is a very good way to get you out of those very strange matchups where there are just permanents that you can't deal with. So for example, sometimes in the eggs matchup, you'll be able to sack your Ratchet Bombs, get rid of their Lotus Blooms, and force them to go off at very specific points. They'll be suboptimal for them. 4 Leyline of the Wood is very, very important. You notice we not only have 4 Leyline, but we also have a Grafdigger's Cage because of the way that our deck enables certain graveyard strategies. You just can't lose to your opponent, say, turn 1 discarding Stink Medium, turn 1 discarding Obstinate Baloth. Though obviously those decks don't stop that. These cards don't stop the Obstinate Baloth. But similar strategies like that where you can't be enabling graveyard strategies. Reanimator is very similar. Grafdigger's Cage was something that I just put in to help with the pod matchup. Specifically the Kiki pod matchup. The Malira pod matchup is surprisingly fine, even though obviously Malira is traditionally good against Infect. You have Disfigures for most of their combo pieces, and you have instant speed removal for when they try to get off their infinite combo. So overall, not the worst matchup. Pithing Needle, Double Pithing Needle is a concession to the popularity of Red Green Tron, which is definitely this deck's worst matchup. You can't deal with a turn 3 Tron into turn 3 Karn, and even turn 3 Wormcoil Engine, very, very difficult for you to deal with as this deck. Red Green Tron is easily the matchup that I'm least excited to see. The matchup that I'm most excited to see is these blue, white, red, American, etc. Geist decks, because they have very few ways of dealing with this card. You make them discard their hand. Their top decks, even though they're very efficient at drawing cards, they don't tend to be very good at top decking. And a Crusader equipped with the Pike can easily just kind of get there in a turn or two. So this daily is going to start soon.